The top screen on this DS is done for, gone, unsavable. At least I don't think I can save it. And the bottom screen's a little yellowed, but we'll fix that later. I have a video either out now or coming out soon for the second channel where I go over how to fix a yellowed DS screen. But that's not what we're here for today. We're going to make this a DS again, but with only one screen. And I know, that's crazy. A lot of you hate macros for no good reason. But we're going to turn this into a macro, but then give it its top screen capabilities back without giving it another top screen. Confused yet? I hope so. I don't know why I hope so. But I've got a shell from Extreme Rate that I've been holding on to for a while. I've got a good candidate DS Lite because everything works except for that top screen. And I've got this little kit that I got off of eBay. You can actually get it made yourself if you don't want to buy it from eBay, but this is much easier. Plus, it's kind of a little complicated to mess with the firmware. I haven't tried it myself, and I'm kind of curious to see if I can do it. But we'll worry about this later. Let's tear this thing down. I'm not going to be super in-depth on how to do this. If you need a tutorial on how to make just a plain macro, I've got an in-depth tutorial on the main channel. I'll link that down below. But I will show off all the steps on how to actually do this mod in this video here. I'm just not going to be holding your hand as much. But that being said, we've got 2 Phillips screws, 4 Phillips screws right in here that we're going to take out. And then we've got 1, 2, 3, and a 4th tri-wing screw up here to take care of. And then we can actually pull this back half off. But there's some plastic tabs in here that you're going to want to lift up. Very simple. Those 2 tabs right there lock in down here, and that can catch and be a little annoying to take this piece off, but we can put that off to the side. I'm not going to need it since I'm not going to be reusing the shell. It is a nice shell though. I really do love this color. I have one in the case, but it's a little scuffed. It's a little dirty. I'm not going to use it. That's why we've got the Extreme Rate one over here. Then we've got 1 more Phillips screw to take care of over here. We can remove L and R. There are some springs in this. And then I'm going to take off this module. Okay, well, I really needed that double-sided tape to come with it. And I'll take this antenna off as well. And I guess we will just try and remove this double-sided tape. There we go. And I'm going to open this back up a little bit and push with my finger the screen and entire motherboard out. Unfold it like a book because we still have this to take care of. We can lift the latch that will also open up like a book like we just did with the motherboard. And then we can pull it out. Now we've still got this wire here. This is an antenna or something. We're not going to need it. So you can just carefully pull it out from underneath the cart slot. There is the main chip underneath here, so you want to be a little careful when you pull it out. It might get caught on some chips or some other components. Just don't yank it out. Be calm, cool, and collected. And then we can just leave it like this. I don't like to mess with the connectors, especially the touchscreen one, because they can be a little finicky. So I'm just going to leave it like this. If you're using an Extreme Rate shell like I am, we're going to need to remove this blue border here. And whoever owned this before used a screen protector, thank you very much, that I will probably peel off once we're done here. There are 2 Phillips screws that are pretty long over here that we need to remove. And that will actually take this little nubbin out. And that is where the hinge is hiding out. And we should be able to take these 2 wires and stretch them out like this and take the ribbon cable and put it right through the slot as we pull this half out from the top half. Then you can just put this nub back on if you want by screwing it down. That's what I would do. And then I like to put some sort of painted dowel or a little acrylic tube for a cool little light. And I'm pretty much just going to put everything off to the side because the only thing we really need is the bottom screen, the motherboard. That's it. And the battery. I feel like that's pretty obvious. We don't even need this. Normally, if you're just doing a macro, you do need this. You absolutely need this piece. This holds the BIOS. This holds the firmware. But with this mod, we get a new one because it has a special firmware flash to it that allows us to actually do the screen swapping. So I'm going to safely put those over there. We will unplug this part of the screen, so just lift that black piece up, and then you should be able to pull your screen out. And then we're going to flip this open like a book, Then we're going to need a 330 ohm resistor. I'll have some of those linked down below. You really can only get them in a giant pack. Some people sell them in a 2-pack. It's such a waste of money to only buy 2 of them. I don't know what you would need like 50 of them for, but I mean, if you want to do a bunch more of these, then yeah. But these guys are super, super tiny. Look at that. Have no fear. We're going to solder this to LED A2 and LED C2. Doesn't matter what orientation it is, as long as it's soldered to both of those joints. So I'm going to get my soldering iron back up to 300 degrees Celsius. I'm using lead-free solder, by the way. That's why it's up to 300 degrees Celsius. If you used lead solder, then it would be a lower temperature. But, you know, lead, breathing that in, I mean, it's not good to breathe any solder in, any of those fumes. And I'm going to put my tip down on LED A2, push the solder in and lift up. I'm going to do the same thing to LED C2. Boom. Simple as that. If you didn't get perfect solder balls like I did, you can put some flux down on both sides. Now it's sticking to my flux. There we go. And we are going to go ahead and solder this guy down. Start with one of the points either side. It doesn't matter. Oh, it went with my soldering iron. That's all right. And we're locked in on the top. Then I'm just going to tap around that bottom point, and we got our solder flowing. Everything looks good. We got a little solder on P06, but that is totally fine. Now we are done with soldering, completely done. That is it. If you already have a macro, like say you buy one from me at retroremastered.com, you didn't have to do any of that. You just could take it apart and do the rest of this on your own. Future Jake here. So obviously it's done. Spoiler alert, I guess. I don't know. I mess up pretty badly. I tried to fit a speaker in. I take the top screen apart and I use one of the actual DS Lite speakers and try and fit it in somewhere in here. It just doesn't work. There's too much going on here. Maybe there's a spot. I can't figure it out. I tried to fit it in here, which is where the bottom screen connects to the motherboard. I tried very hard to get it in there, multiple different ways in multiple different spots. It just doesn't work. I even trimmed off the screw post in that spot, and there's just not enough room here. I don't think there's enough room here, and especially because you can't remove that top screen connector because you need it. It's the whole point of this mod is to use that top screen connector. So please ignore the speaker, ignore the wires. I try not to mention it, or at least cut out all the points where I mention it because it's just not necessary. And when we put the motherboard screws down, I only put one down because, again, I cut off the screw post on this side. But yeah, just ignore the speaker, ignore the wires. Don't worry about a speaker. If you really want sound, use the headphone jack. And when I finally put this all together, the screen is broken because I tried to jam the speaker in there and it ruined the ribbon cable. But anyways, that's it for now. Enjoy the rest of the video. I'll see you in a minute. We can fold this back over and then we can put the screen back in. We can use both sides of these little tabs to make sure it's nice and flush, and then close that book cover. I like to use that analogy because it just makes it a little easier to understand. It doesn't lift up, it opens up and closes. Anyways, these little cross shapes with the white and gold spots on it, those are where the buttons are actually pressed. And if there's any smudges or dirt, if it doesn't look shiny and gold, then you might want to take some IPA, put it on a paper towel or a Q-tip or something, wipe that down, and it'll make your button presses a lot better and more consistent. Just a good little maintenance tip. But we don't really need to talk about that right now. Let's get out our shell. There are a bajillion bags in here. Probably the most annoying part about Extreme Rate is how much they separate every little thing. I really don't want to have to open this bag up because it's kind of annoying to, mess with all the screws and stuff. I'm going to go with the original screws, but everything you need is included here. So if you don't have the right screwdrivers and you do get an Extreme Rate kit, then it'll have everything you need. You just got to open this up before you tear it down. And pretty much everything else is not pre-applied or pre-installed that could easily be pre-installed. So it's a little annoying, but whatever. And this is a really dope shell. I think it would look a lot better if I was keeping it as a full DS Lite, but I still think it looks cool just in that black and white look here. But it would also be cool if the Great Wave was in full color on the inside as well. Oh well, still looks cool. And I recommend just dumping everything out of their bags. Even if you see some components that you're like, yeah, I'm not going to use that, they separate a lot of these things very weirdly. So I recommend just getting everything out. But this bag that holds the stylus and stylus accessories, we actually don't need, because let's just bust that out now. This is the setup for the original shell over here. We're going to take the little PCB here. We're going to lift this up like that and slide this in pins down until the white line matches up. We're going to push it all the way in and close it, and that white line should be pretty much gone. Then we can put our 3D printed piece in like this, around these two buttons here, and over the top of this button under here. And then we should be able to slide this entire assembly into the hole where the stylus would normally go. And we can line these two holes up with the screw posts there. I'm going to remove these two gold screws from the bottom half and just transfer them over to their corresponding spots. And then you should be able to give it a little test run by pressing in like this, pressing in like this, and sliding it out like that. I'm having some issues pushing it in from the side. So I'm going to loosen this screw right here, just a tiny bit of a turn. Maybe this one just doesn't click very well. I'll try loosening this one as well. I think this one just doesn't click as well. So I'll make those tight-ish. I'll make adjustments later if needed. Before we continue the installation of this little button board, we can go ahead and put in this metal piece. You don't have to peel this blue piece off if you don't want to. They used to be really annoying to peel off, but I think they've changed how they put that on. I don't know. And then you can slide it in to match the old one, or you can just transfer the old one over too. That works. Then we have one of these little guys. You can put that on the right side of this metal piece. I don't really know what it's for or why it's there. I've not installed one of those before and nothing's gone wrong. We can also put this foam guy right on this corner of the battery compartment. It's a little hard to do the peel, and I also don't think this is necessary. The last thing we want to do on this back half is we want to slide our power switch in. That's the one with the triangle. Make sure it slides. And same thing with the volume one. These will probably fall out, just so you know. Be aware of that. Oh, I also forgot. I almost always forget this too. You're going to want to slide one of these. You get two of them. You want to slide that in here, and it can be a little finicky, and you'll want it to look like this. The hole should be evenly placed on the other side. Now we are officially done with putting together this half. We can put that off to the side very carefully. And we're going to take our little nub in here. We can slide the clear piece in. It does only go in one way, which I just put it in the wrong way. And then we should be able to slot it in here. It will fit pretty perfectly. Put that down. Then we can take our two long Phillips screws and screw it back down. We can put in all of our buttons and membranes. All of these only go in one way, but B is down low, X is up top, A is on the outside, and Y is on the inside. Normally I say B on the inside, but that's for Game Boys because they don't have X and Y. Then the membrane with the square goes on the ABXY side. And then the membrane with the circle goes in on the D-pad side. Then we can slot in start and select and put its little membrane down as well. Now we can grab our motherboard once again, and if you're with me on the extreme rate stuff, you can peel off just the border. Don't peel anything else off. You should be able to stick your finger through the border. Don't peel up anything else because you're going to either break the screen or the touch screen. If you want to, you can also peel up any screen protectors that might be on there already. I'm actually going to go wipe this down real quick. Careful. Do not spray any screens with alcohol. Spray something like a paper towel and then wipe it down. Even though IPA is generally safe for electronics, you want zero liquid in a screen, unless it's a liquid crystal. Now this is going to be the tougher part. Normally I would just plop that down and it'd make this a lot easier, but we're going to need to connect this ribbon cable to the motherboard and then put this down and then that on top or on bottom, but it'll be flipped upside down. So you can totally solder this, by the way. If you don't want to do the ribbon cable or your ribbon cable breaks, you can solder these points directly to the board, but this definitely makes it a lot easier. So we're going to take our ribbon cable like this, and we're going to kind of sort of fold it over here, and we're going to kind of sort of fold it. Don't like fully crease it down, but give it a bit of a right angle here, just a a small bend. So it's like this, and then we'll eventually fold this over. I think even right now, it'd just be good to kind of place this inside the shell and then make sure that this connector is open. And then we're going to take this and fold it over and slot this in as close to the inside as possible. Try and keep it as straight as possible. Don't want anything to be crooked. And then you can lock that down. Try that again and lock that down. And then I'm going to take this back out of the back half and unfold it like the book that we have been doing. I'm going to leave it kind of like this off to the side. We're going to go back over to this half and we're going to do our LNR buttons because I kind of forgot to do that earlier. We're going to need a spring and a peg for each the L and R buttons. And we're going to line the spring up like this with the holes. And you're going to want to get one of the springs that has the loop facing the inside of the button like this. And this end of the loop that sticks out is lower, I guess, away from this side of it, if that makes sense. Then we will stick the peg through all of those holes and it'll look like this. That was the L button that I just did. And then we can slide it in to this slot here and have this end of the spring go in between these two little pitchforks. And it should look something like that. And then the R button will mirror it. We want the loop facing us and the part of the spring that sticks out is away from this. And then we stick the peg in through all of those. Then we can stick the spring in that fork and then the peg will go in the hole right next to the fork. Now all of our buttons are set up and ready to go. So here's where it's going to get fun. Probably not going to do the best job of explaining this because it's just hard to do. It's hard to follow. Make sure that this doesn't come out. Make sure everything's locked in. And we're going to flip this over very gently and just try and shift this board around until it clicks in. And even right now, like I have no idea if there's actually, oh gosh, anything in the way. I'm going to try and talk all of you through this. And you're kind of on your own for putting this in well, because I don't really know what I'm doing in this situation. I'm going to take LNR out because I haven't done a macro in a while and I forgot. It's a lot easier to do that afterwards. So the speaker is just probably not going to work. And I trimmed that off for no good reason. We can put this motherboard down like so. And everything should go in pretty easily. We can secure it down with this screw hole over here using a small Phillips screw like we did earlier. And you can also do this side, but I'm not going to because I cut that off trying to fit the speaker in over here like a dummy. Also like a dummy, I tried to install these earlier. We can put our LNR buttons in now that our motherboard is down and fit that spring into that pitchfork there and the peg into the hole next to it. And you're going to want to do that to both sides, but this cable kind of gets in our way. So we're going to need to fold this over like that, I guess, and a little bit of a crease, just a tiny bit of a crease. Never do a full crease on ribbon cables, just a little crease. And then we can put the peg in there and flip that spring into the pitchfork. And we're still able to press L and R. And we're almost done with the kit that I have linked down below. It will come with a new BIOS chip that holds like the Wi-Fi and everything. Don't reuse the old one that we took out of it. This has a special firmware on it. Otherwise, this entire mod is useless. So we're going to plug the new one into the same spot. It's this connector right here. There should be a click, but I guess we're locked in and there was no click. That's fine. And then the speaker might not fit in here because of all of this going on, but we're going to try it. And before we officially flip all of this over, we're going to want to make sure that both the power switch cover and the volume slider cover are locked in. I like to have the volume one all the way to the right. Make sure that the volume slider is also matching the same position, at least no matter where you have it. They need to be in the same position. And since the power switch always springs back down, let's have the power switch cover in the down position as well. And then I like to hold on to both of those to keep them in their positions as we fold it over. And at a certain point, you can't really hold it anymore. So you just got to hope, pray to whatever God you believe in, and then try to click everything down. It may not actually click down into position, but I'm going to have to redo that because the R button decided to come with. And I think we're actually in position here. So I'm going to hold all of this down pretty tightly since it's a tight fit. I'm going to start screwing these things down. Same as when we took it apart, just backwards. I wouldn't force anything if it's not going. If that's the case, then you may have done something wrong. But the DS Lite is just kind of a pain in the butt to work with. And it's a little bulgy, so I'm just gonna go ahead and say that this is probably not gonna work well with speakers. Then we can slide our battery in. Let's see. Yeah, I'm getting some screen glitching, probably from too much pressure. Oh yeah. So I'm just gonna go ahead and say speaker, not really gonna be a good option here. Maybe a smaller switch speaker from the OLED one or the original one, because yeah, this isn't good. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove that real quick. Plus, it's not worth the super, super quiet speaker anyways. Now that that's all fixed, I'm going to put the rubber pads down over the screw holes. I'm also gonna put my little sticker on here, put the battery back in, find our battery cover, slide that on. And this screw that's a little bit different from the rest is our battery cover screw. We can go ahead and put that in. Sometimes it takes a little bit wiggling around to get it into the actual nut, but that went pretty easy for me and shouldn't be as glitchy anymore. Still got a bit of glitchiness to it. Maybe I broke it. I'm not going to worry about this right now because it's probably just a cable needing to be reseated, and I'll either tell you on screen what was wrong right now, or we will cut to a part where I'm fixing it. All right, so it works, and the screen is working. Everything is hunky-dory, whatever that means. And over here, we've got the button where you can press it in like that. You can press it in like that, and you can pull it out like that, and it will change how the screen looks. Now, when you press it in from this side, I don't get a click. All this does is change the opacity, so you'll get like instant visual representation of whether or not you actually press the button. So don't worry about that. But pressing it in from the back, the screen swapping button is clicky, and pulling it out is also very clicky. But yeah, you've got your half opacity mode. I think you can actually, yeah, you can adjust the opacity on this too. And then you can go picture in picture on the right and left corners, not on the top, or you can just go full screen and swap. This is mainly what I played with the whole time. It's fine. But that's really all I have for this one. Go check out the main channel review of this whole thing if you haven't watched that already. It's on screen right now. I think it's pretty cool, but yeah, you know what? I'll let you go watch the main channel review. That's what I made it for.